I'm putting the
We
link right
are
now in
live.
the Schoolers group.
Sweet.
So we'll
Yeah,
see if anybody
that's
for the
self-promotion,
YouTube link, of course.
I'm not allowed to. It's self-promotion, Skooler rules. I want to abide by Sam and Kirby. Not
Yeah.
no.
Am I allowed to then?
Asking you
Because it's
guys.
not my podcast.
Yeah, if you're being a guest, like, hey, we're just hanging out. Want to come
Yeah.
hang out with us, basically, right? That's totally
Hmm.
good. Don't want to violate the guidelines. Well, I'm curious. I always like starting there because we're new friends. If you guys wanted to, maybe starting with you, Michelle, if you want to give us your background, like how did you discover Skool and how did this come to be? So that way, when I made a post in the Schoolers community, somebody tagged you, and then I sent you a DM, and you said yes, and here we are.
Yeah, pretty much. So basically, I guess how I found Skool, how I got started on the community and everything. Yeah. So the biggest thing, I guess, for me was I've actually have a little bit of a history with entrepreneurship. So I've been an entrepreneur for about 6 years, and I started off with like a bookkeeping business and did actually really well within a couple of years. I grew it from like nothing, and I had all the way up to like having multiple employees. And I did that in a couple of years, and it was awesome, except I was completely overwhelmed, didn't know how to run a team, didn't know how to scale, didn't know how to do any of that. And I was like, this is way too much. And I have a whole bunch of kids, and I'm like pregnant again. And this is way too much. And so I ultimately ended up shutting the whole thing down. But I realized I actually really liked the marketing side of things, and I knew I wanted to get better at it. And I figured whatever it was I ended up ultimately doing, I'd have to know some level of marketing. So I started learning a whole bunch of stuff with marketing, and a bunch of my friends said, hey, can you do my social media for me? Because you were really good at that. So I started opening up a social media agency. And then over time, that developed into a big full scale marketing agency. And my cat's going crazy behind me. But I ended up with a big full scale marketing agency doing like website design, SEO. Like I had subcontractors that worked with me doing different things. And ultimately, I realized that I'm also now overwhelmed. Again, why did I do this to myself? And so I decided I need to stop. And of course, this was actually, I just had my fourth child in 6 years, and it ended up being a C-section. And so like the delivery was not what we had expected at all. The recovery was so much harder than I was expecting. And ultimately, I realized I need to figure something else out, right? I need to this is not going to work. So I ended up shutting down the marketing agency. Technically shutting it down, was still using it for my coaching, but I basically pivoted and turned it into coaching instead. And so now I help moms build profitable businesses using all the stuff that I've learned through all of that time, while also leveraging information that I've learned from being in so many different masterminds. Now I've invested a lot of my time and money into multiple different masterminds that I'm in, and I use that information to not only improve my product as a coach for my clients, but also improve the way that I'm getting clients myself and the way that I'm running my business. So that's my spiel about kind of how I came to this. And I found Skool through an ad, actually, because I'm a huge fan of Hermosi. And I joined Skool that way. And that's how I got in touch with so many amazing schoolers and just grew my coaching business from there. So
With that, just want to double check. You guys heard what she was saying there, right? Because on my end, my connection dropped, and everything was robotic-y and frozen when I tried to let Sarah in the call. And then, of course, as soon as she's done her story, it's like, oh, all good for
no.
me. Did you guys Sarah, Mo, Shar? You guys heard all that, right? That was good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
we heard everything.
So happy it was just a me thing. Like I was telling Sarah before we started, my laptop just completely was like blue screen. We're not
Oh,
working.
no.
I had to go through all the. So I got my phone as backup now. We're good. That's awesome. I guess I'm curious to know then, Mo and Share, how you guys found Michelle and how that connection became the next step of how we showed up here today.
Yeah, so in the fall last year, so 2024, I got into posting on social media, and I found this guy that was like, if you're interested in digital marketing, blah, blah, blah. So I started posting on social media, and it was like daunting. And I didn't know what I exactly was doing, how I was going to make money. But I was in a Mompreneur Facebook group, and I saw a post from Michelle saying, any mompreneurs want to come and join a weekly coffee chat to connect and grow together. And I was like, wow, that sounds great. So I joined. Well, I messaged her and I just got this good feeling about her. It was like I trusted her because she was a mom and she was an entrepreneur. She knew what she was talking about. And it vibed with me. And so I started working with Michelle at the end of February, and she has taken me from someone dabbling on social media to the brink of a coach. Like, I am about to take off. You know how you can just kind of feel it? I can feel it. But she helped me create my coaching program. She got me into that. And since I've been on Skool, I've gotten into multiple other groups that have been really interesting. And it's just a great environment. I love it. Like, we're always told that if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, surround yourself with successful entrepreneurs. And this is like the best place to be if you want to do that. So I'm passionate about it. It's great.
I'm glad I had my headphone in for this one. I got my backup connection because the laptop crapped out. But that was awesome. I think that's kind of at the core of all of our the Skool conversations is like the finding your people and your obviously it's building community and your connection, right? So hearing you being a member in your community and how that was fostered and how you're feeling like empowered by that, like it's the magic of Skool right there, right? I guess that is that what inspired you to start your own Skool community as well, for the coaching.
Yeah, and it's funny because I've never wanted to be an entrepreneur. Like, I'm one of those anomalies that's not their whole life trying to make money and stuff. I've always wanted to be an author. So I've been writing and stuff my whole life, and I wrote a book and I'm doing stuff like that. But then my brother is a CEO of his own business. My other brother trades crypto. Like, they're very entrepreneur-y, and it just seems exciting, really fun and challenging and rewarding. And so I got into it and I love it. And especially on Skool, like, I'm a different person than I was a year ago, and it's great.
I see Sarah's head shaking. I really want her to kind of lead the charge on the conversation here today, but I'd love to hear an introduction from you, Sharon, how you got involved as well.
Kind of the same thing for me. I found an ad just kind of roaming through YouTube, watching just videos on how people are making money or just fitness things. I love YouTube because really you can learn so much for free. You really can. And I, especially at the beginning of the year, I told myself I wanted this year to be just a little bit more productive with my time. Like, instead of watching like Love is Blind and TLC, like, I'm going to like start watching some meaningful stuff. So then I started doing that. And then I saw Skool and I was like, what is this about? So I started watching some videos and then joined a couple groups on Skool. And then I started thinking to myself, like, what is something, because I work in healthcare. So I've always had that passionate feeling about helping people. I know that's what I want to do. So, sorry. So I was like, well, how can I help other people? And fitness has always been a super large part of my life. So I decided to create a fitness community and share just my journey of how I was able to get fit in such a short time as a busy mom. And I think that is something that I've had so many of my friends, so many people talk about, so many people come up to me and ask about. I'm like, I got to share this with other people. And then just like Mo was saying, you know, surrounding yourself with a certain type of people just shifts your mind. You know, you always hear that old time saying that your parents tell you, like, show me your friends and I'll show you who you are. And I think, at least for me, I can say a certain shift in my life happened maybe in the past year that I just needed more fulfillment. I needed something to do that was productive. Like, how am I going to give back to the world? How am I going to change lives? So I feel like meeting people like Michelle and Mo and just being on calls with people that are so passionate and so driven has helped me so much. And I love Skool for it. It's great. It's amazing.
But I love that we have like there's that for I didn't do any pre-research really. I posted in Schoolers and someone was like, Michelle, and I reached out to Michelle and then I was like, hey Michelle, who do you have anybody like top, like, most engaged, really awesome students in the community? And she got you guys to come on. And then of course Sarah's here too. Sarah, well, but it's a good variety to show in terms of the different stories of like what you can find on Skool. And I love, like, obviously being Mother's Day, that's why I wanted to have like a super mom mompreneurs kind of focused discussion. And I like a lot of what you guys are saying is identifying with me. And so just to give you guys background, because it's the first time we're meeting today for anyone watching, I've never met these people before. It's the first time we're having a conversation. I'm Patrice, Pat the honey guy, 8th-generation beekeeper in Northern Canada, the honey capital of Canada. I got fired 2 years ago. I applied to almost 1,000 jobs, done handfuls of interviews. Nothing has worked. I've got 2 kids, a 4-year-old or almost 4-year-old, and then an almost 2-year-old or 1.5-year-old. And then of course I'm married and I bought a house right before getting fired and having all that happen. And my wife was pregnant with the second one at that time. And so that's kind of my foray into it. Is I was like, well, cried in my car for 5 minutes, walked down the street, sold all the honey we had in the warehouse to wherever I could. And then Alex Ramosi, I was in the hospital waiting for my son to be born, and Alex Ramosi video, I think it dropped or I watched it then, of like, hey, I'm investing in Skool, here's why you should do it. Signed up, created an account, like something was there. And then that's pretty much the rest is history. I've been on Skool and like, this is what I do full time, like working and supporting other creators like yourself, but just having fun. And at some point I was like, I should probably start my own community. And so then I got the beekeeping community started last September now. And so that's kind of my foray or introduction into Skool. And then I just happened to get involved in Schoolers because of a chain of connections. And then I met Sarah, I saw Nav, and all these different people. And so then here we are having more conversations. That's why I love that the similar story has pulled you guys in of like wanting to find that motivation, like seeing this entrepreneurial thing and like wondering what it is. And it just goes to show the wave that we're kind of on in 2025 of everyone being their own business, their own personal brand, their own broadcast, right? And Skool is an awesome place to monetize that, because I like what you said is I'm just creating a community to show people my journey. And people are going to come along for the ride, and then eventually you'll figure out how to kind of monetize and pull which levers that people want to buy from you, right? Because there's fitness specifically, like lift and do these things and eat and exercise, like it's packaged differently, but it's all pretty much the same thing. But that's the thing, is it's the packaging. It's you that sells it. So that's the unique cool thing that Skool unlocks. So I just want to give you guys that background of my introduction. I don't know, it's probably your first time meeting Sarah, and then we had Nav join as well. So you lovely ladies want to introduce yourselves as well.
Hey guys, it's me. I was late. I was trying to get my laptop back there to like turn on, and it's like the internet is crap. We live in the middle of nowhere on purpose, but I don't know if I've got kids online or what the hell's happening. So I had to join on mobile. I am a neurospicy mom of 7. I have 7 kiddos. I'm out of the baby, like toddler stage now. My youngest is 9. My oldest is 23. So this is not my first time like starting a business. I've done various entrepreneurial things, but kind of like Mo, the I didn't really ever set out to be an entrepreneur. It was more like, okay, I'm having I have kids. I don't want to be like putting them in daycare. I don't want to, whatever. Like I want to be home with them, right? And then eventually we also started like homeschooling, radically unschooling. So like then I really needed to be home. So I was like, but I also had that passion inside, right? Like various things that I was interested in or I wanted to do, or I wanted to bring in a little bit of fun money in so we could go do, stuff. And I kind of accidentally fell into creating businesses that grew to 6 figures, and I was hiring, contract workers and doing all of this stuff like it really was by accident. Like I was just doing the next right thing, right? Like asking people what they wanted. Like I've done hair at a shop where I like rented a booth space. Like that was my like dipping my toe into it. Was like I don't want to work at a shop where they're telling me when I have to work, what I have to use, all of this stuff, right? Well, I had the certification to do it my way, and I found a spot where I could do that, and I could use my own stuff and set my own hours and do that sort of thing. But then our fifth kid was born with medical issues, so then I couldn't like have set appointments, right? So then it was like, okay, so I had to stop doing that and had a break for a bit until we got her out of the woods and things. But it's also been like a continual thing. Like she's had ups and downs since then. It's not like we resolved everything and it's been kosher since, right? So then I was like, okay, well now I have to do something that doesn't involve appointments, like, you know, that I can like tweak and work around my own schedule. But I had really gotten into baby wearing when she was little because she wasn't able to walk. And so then I was like starting to make my own carriers, and then that's where I fell into like other people were asking me to make carriers for them, and that's the first business that I grew to 6 figures, right? And then, you know, fast forward 5 years or whatever, 6 figures, had contract workers sewing carriers for me and all that jazz. Something else happened and I had to stop again. Like, you know, having so many kids, like I joke that, you know, entrepreneurship is one of the quickest ways to flesh out the inner work, right? The stuff that we have to like overcome and work through to get to that next version of ourselves to actually, you know, reach our dream goals and things. Well, I like kudos to everyone, like everybody watching this, like as a replay or like here live, that's a mom or a parent. Like parenting is the other one of those things. It's the quickest way to flesh out that work, right? So like I feel like you have to be kind of insane to do both at the same time. We're just a glutton for punishment, right? Or we're just, you know, on a route to figure out, you know, who we are and what we have. We came here, right, to share our medicine or, you know, what we have to share with the world, and we're able to do it a little bit quicker than maybe some others because we are doing the entrepreneurship gig and the parenting stuff. So, and I started one other business between the baby carriers and here, grew it to 6 figures too. And then my oldest was having some mental health issues. So it was like, okay, like I have to be fully present and mom, and it's okay to shelf this, right? Like if and when it's time to redo it or do it again, I'll be back, right? And so got that all situated. I actually went to go work for a small company, like an herbal company, for I was going to work for them. And that lasted about 1.5 years, but that whole entrepreneur thing, oh, this would be so much better if, oh, this would go, you know, smoother. And like, are they really paying me enough to do what I'm doing here? And it's like, and then we moved to the middle of nowhere about 3.5 years ago. And I couldn't, it made no sense to drive that far to do whatever. So then it was like, then it started, you know, getting wheels spinning. And I found Skool almost 1.5 years ago now, almost. And I had never heard of Formosi or Sam or anything. I was actually looking, I came to Skool to do a homeopathy thing. Like I had created a resource and like holistic living, that kind of thing. And I jumped into the main Skool community and found my tribe a little over 1 year ago now, and found the people, right? I've talked about this before, like I had never found a space where I fit because I didn't go to business school. I don't jive the way the hustle marketing, like bro culture, you know, says to do things. Like I'm not here to tell you what you should do, but I'm here to ask questions so that we can figure out what way is best for you to operate and to, you know, reach your dreams and goals and that kind of thing. And so I was helping people in Schoolers, and then I'm like, you know, maybe this fills me up and lights me up even more than the homeopathy thing does. So then I started like the business coaching and the groups that I have now, not quite 1 year ago. So about 10 months ago. And it's been freaking phenomenal. Like I fucking love it. And I love helping people, you know, follow their dreams and passions and not feel like they have to fit themselves in a box to find their success and things like that. So been quite a journey.
Also, I don't think we've said this before too. Stamp on the history record book. First female schooler to hit level 9 on the leaderboard when the leaderboards were still a thing. I did write something down that's kind of interested me in a lot of what you guys are saying, and I want to open it up for you guys to like ask each other questions, because I'll ultimately I this one question is the one whole reason where I was like, yeah, Mother's Day, moms only, mompreneurs, super moms, that episode would be super awesome to get to do. So I'm going to ask that question. But now, why don't you give us, these lovely ladies on the call, an introduction of yourself?
Hello. Oh my gosh. I am not a mother yet. One day, but when Patrice said this was happening and was like, "Hey, we should do this." I'm like, "Yes, I will be there," because I just want to, I think you guys are superheroes, literally. I tell Sarah this all the time. I don't know how you do this. She's like the most active in the community, and it's just, I'm like, yes. Like it motivates me, okay? So yeah, I'm here for the conversation.
That's why I thought it'd be good to have you on too now, as you're not yet mom, possibly maybe future mom. Like, we'll see, right? But you'd probably be a better person to get to ask more questions, because I'm just here to kind of facilitate. So I mean, I'm not a mom. I'm a dad. We'll have a Father's Day episode. That's in June, I think, right? I don't even remember when Father's Day is, because I haven't been a dad that long. Don't even really deserve the credit. I think one thing that stood out to me in everybody's introductions, what I was able to piece together from what Michelle said when my laptop was cutting out, so what everybody was saying, and just highlighted again in what Sarah said during her bigger introduction, was the power of choice that we have as entrepreneurs, right? And I think Mo really spoke to that, of like looking out, of like, oh, these people, like, what is that entrepreneurship? They look like they're having fun. They look like they're happy. Like they're making ends meet. It must be okay, right? It's a roller coaster. It's between good and bad, and you have to put in a lot of work, right? But I think that's one thing that really hit home and resonated with me. Also, obviously, the underlying theme of all Skool conversations ever is going to be finding your community and finding your tribe, and like that deep connection and like happiness we feel from that, because that is like at the core of all Skool communities, right? But I think for in the business context of you guys being mompreneurs and super moms, is the power of choice, right? Like Sarah's story highlighted with all the different trials and tribulations, but she still chose to figure out, well, how are we going to make this work? And if I want to be a stay-at-home mom and do these things and the appointment scheduling, right? So you guys having similar stories being moms, that's one thing that I wanted I don't know if you guys had anything you wanted to add on that point, but again, similar to Nav, just praise. You guys are awesome, amazing for what you do, being moms and doing the business stuff. Anyone who's not a parent, like, you don't have an excuse. Like, you just heard all these lovely stories. Like, you just don't have an excuse if you don't have kids. Like, I'm sorry, it's just not that hard. I'm not like saying you have to have kids in order to like, like Nav, you don't have to have kids to be like, oh man, I'm super successful and made it. Like, you could be successful in life without kids, but like, until you have kids, life is not, it's easy. You're on easy mode. You're still on tutorial island. You haven't really finished growing up. Of course, you can parent a niece and nephew, all that, but that's the power of choice in terms of like, I could work from home, or like if you wanted to go to the office and have that job, and like building that schedule around, so that way your family is still being taken care of, you're still being fulfilled doing what you want to do, like going to an office every day, or being like Sarah, out in the middle of nowhere and popping on calls randomly every here and there throughout the day. Like it's the flexibility to get to do what you want, and I think it's the decision you guys have made to take power over that choice and do what you want, rather than letting the fact of life of like, oh, I've got kids, the day-to-day draining, like waking up. Like, I get it because I'm a dad, but I don't because I'm not a mom, right? So that's kudos to you guys, like Nav said, for being super moms and showing up and putting it in. I guess my question would be, was there any one thing that you guys can point to that like drives you in the scheme of this, or like is like the underpinning? Like, is there something you have to remind yourself of, or like thoughts you kind of go through to keep yourself going through the day? Or is this just kind of like, you're just wired this way, you just wake up, take care of the kids and the family, and just do what you got to do all day? I don't know if I'm asking that clear enough.
Yeah, so actually I've got some input into some of this, because I want to also kind of highlight, like, yes, there's the choice aspect of like, we're choosing to, do this and make this happen and make it work. But I think the make it work is more along the lines of the mompreneurship, which is like, what's the alternative, right? The alternative is I go to work, right? Or the alternative is I put my kids in public school where I don't believe in the stuff that they're going to be fed and taught and the influences they're going to have there, right? And I mean, everybody's going to have different values, but my values are not portrayed in a public school setting in most cases. So I don't feel comfortable putting my kids there, right? I homeschool my kids as well. So awesome, Sarah. I'm sure we can get together on a lot of things. I've had 2 home births, right? I mean, very natural minded as well. A lot of the stuff that we believe really caters to a strong home setting. And so I've got 2 options. I can either go to work or I can find a way to make money at home while raising them. And I think most of the moms that I talk to, that's the choice that they have, which feels like it is a choice technically, but is it really a choice? Because when you're a mom, you're putting your kids above everything else. I'll sleep for 2 hours a night as long as my kids are taken care of, right? I'll go the whole day without eating as long as my kids are fed. Like, as a mom, we put our kids and our family above ourselves. And so, today is a great example. The fact that I work for myself means that this morning my 2-year-old was able to get the therapy that she needs. She's in feeding therapy, right? I've got medically complex child as well. I'm going through the whole endeavor of trying to figure out, like, get her evaluated for certain things and get her speech therapy and all these other things, which is a whole slew of struggles, and I got to tell you, I hear all the time from other moms that are like, I can't believe that you run a business and you homeschool and you have like 4 kids and they're all under the age of 6. Like, that's crazy. I'm like, I don't know about you guys, but like, we wake up whenever we want to. I don't have to like bring my kids or get them ready for a bus on time, right? We eat whenever we want to. We eat while we're doing school. My 6-year-old said the funniest thing to me the other day. We were doing our school workbooks, and of course she sees on TV what school's like, right? Like in the shows and stuff. She's like, oh, she knows school exists, but she's never been. And so she asked me, she was like, I want to go to school. Like, I want to go and have friends and do like all that stuff. And like, we do other play dates and stuff. And I'm very like letting the child lead. Like, I'm not, if she wants to go to school, I will allow her to go to school, right? But we had the conversation. I said, well, I think it's important that you know what that's like before deciding to do that. And so we talked about it. And by the end of it, she made the conclusion that since she couldn't eat while doing her food at school, she didn't really want to actually go to school, And so we were able to have that conversation. And I think a lot of times, like, as moms, the decision for entrepreneurship, and especially when it gets hard, is what's the alternative? And most of the time, the alternative is way worse than us losing sleep, than us being up all night, scratching our head over the copy on our sales page, than us, trying to like hop on these calls while our kids are watching TV right next to us. I do all of my client work because I do 2-hour coaching sessions with my clients. All of them are moms, which was very intentional. If I have to reschedule because my kids are sick, they get it, and if I and I do it all at night or on the weekends. So my husband's home. So because of that, like, he watches the kids while I do these calls. And then during the day is when I'm like engaging in the community. It's when I'm making connections. It's when I'm networking, when I do these podcast shows. I have a podcast show, and in them, like, I don't even edit it out. There's several times where I'm in the middle of the podcast show and my 3-year-old will come over and she's like, can you change the game on the tablet? And I'm like, I'll change it real quick, give it back, and then we finish the podcast. So I think a lot of times it's just the point I want to get across is it's way more flexible and doable as a mom than working is, right? Or any of the other solutions. And so I also think, like, a lot of us moms, we don't have the luxury most of the time of saying, oh, that looks fun, or, oh, I want to do that, or I'd love to pursue this passion. And for some moms, that may be true. So I'm not going to speak for everybody. But I think for a lot of us, this is a necessity. Like, I have a choice. I can either go back to work, or I can figure out a way to make this work and do what I need to do to make my family and still have the values that we have in our house. So that's just my 2 cents.
Well, that's why I wanted to have Nav and Sarah on. Is I'm big gorilla man. I kind of understand, but I don't. Right? I don't have the context. Like my nothing against my wife. She's not of that entrepreneurial mindset, so it's harder to have those conversations about like this is that season or this is a tough, and not having that choice. Right? So hearing that that's kind of where that question was, is like, I don't know what I'm asking, but that was a perfect answer. So thank you. I think I cut, was it Mo, you wanted to say something? Go ahead. Absolutely.
There is so much running through my mind right now that I could possibly say, but after I had my first baby, I had severe postpartum depression and anxiety. And then I have multiple sclerosis, and I also had a really bad relapse of that. So after my first baby, I became a shell of myself. And I spent every day reading, like I read entire books, like one each day, just fluff books, like escaping my reality. And I just had a baby in January. And then I started working with Michelle at the end of February. And I can truly say that this time around, I am thriving. Like I look forward to waking up every day. I don't I don't even read fiction books right now because I am so excited to be in my own life. And that's what being an entrepreneur can do. It can light you up and it can help you find who you really are. And the second thing I was going to say, just speaking about having multiple sclerosis. So when I was first diagnosed, it was 2015. I was really sick, had double vision, walked with two canes. Um, I had super childlike behavior. I wasn't really present in myself. And I finally got put on the right medication and started to get better, but I was still physically handicapped. And I was like, what is the point of life? Why am I here? And I finally realized that as long as I'm helping people, then I have purpose, even if helping people is by letting them help me, because that's helping too. And so I started to fight. And a year later, I was able to run a half marathon and I have been able to live my life. But even with that, I still had my baby, my first baby, and struggled after and lost who I was. But this journey, this entrepreneur journey, has helped me rediscover myself. And I'm a better mom for it. I'm a better person for it. And sure as heck, I know I'm going to be able to help people better because of it.
I freaking love that. Like, I love also, like, because I like Michelle was kind of mentioning, like, as moms, like, that's what we do. Like, we live for our kids and our partner or our spouse or, that sort of thing. And like you mentioned, Mo, like, it's easy, especially after your first baby or if you deal with postpartum anxiety and depression, like, you just kind of feel lost. It doesn't mean you don't love your babies. It doesn't mean that you don't love being married. It doesn't mean any of that. But like, being an entrepreneur, especially if you're able to do it online and fit it in the gaps, right? If you can fit it in the gaps and make it work for you, it gives you that sense of self again. Like, yes, you are a mom. Yes, you are a wife or a partner. Yes, you're doing these things, but it's also okay for you to be following your own passion and purpose and find something that lights you up inside as well. Because, like you said, it makes you a better human. It makes you a better mother. And like, that's part of what I want to jump on because I missed on whether or not the other two of you, I know Michelle's has littles. I don't know if the rest of you have littles too. The really cool thing about being an entrepreneur and showing that to your kids is that they then know that the 9 to 5 and going to college and doing things this specific way that society and like school and everything else touts is the only way to do things, right? So like, and Pat and Nav have heard this story before. So like, my son who is now 20, at 14, like he used to help me do lives like for my clothing business, and he used to like help pitch in when he was little, right, or younger. At 14, he comes to me and he goes, "Mom, I want to work on cars." I'm like, "Okay." And we also always, when the kids come to us, like, I want to do this thing. Like, I want to buy goats. I want to go, I want to earn money for that. How are you going to fund that? Like, let us help you figure out how you want to earn that money, right? So that played into this next bit. But he came to me, I found him a class, and he was actually going through a really rough time. Like, he would be diagnosed as ADHD and probably ODD back then. Like, he just wasn't yeah, was having a hard time. So I found this car class for him, right? That was run by a car shop owner. And I got him in it. and I took him every week. They had a challenge at the end, and he won first place, like just basic car stuff, right? So he won this toolbox. But then also, because we homeschool, the car owner was like, "Hey, you want to come push a broom?" right, at the shop. And he was like, yes, please, right? Like he had none of that ego. Oh, that's too below me. Like none of that. Like let your kids help. Like that's another tip. Like let them help when they want to and like do the gritty work and stuff so that when they get older, it's not like an off-putting thing for them. So he went to the shop and he was working at the shop pushing a broom but then he made friends with the head mechanic there. Right. And so then he started learning all of the things that the head mechanic, knew and, had no issue just hanging out. So then he graduates to oil changes and stuff like that, right? Getting paid for that. And then probably when he was 16 or 17, he moved to a different shop. And this shop wasn't just like a run of the mill shop. Like I don't even know how to pronounce this right. Like Audis, like he works on fancy ass cars. Like that's what he was doing. And he came to me a year later and told me, Mom, like the owner was bringing this older guy around, like a new guy they had hired, and they stopped at calling my son. He's like 6'3", and the owner talked to the older guy and was like, now he doesn't look like much, but he's one of our best techs here. Right. And so now fast forward another year, he's 20. He's lived on his own since he was 18, had his own place, has savings, like done all of that. And the owner is now like, okay, we're getting ready to think about putting another location in over here. We want you to run that place. Right. So no trade school, no college, none of that. And he is like living his dream life and on his way. Like since he was 16, he was like, Mom, when I am older and I get married and, have kids, I want to be able to be there. Like I'd love to have a shop and then like live next door and like be able to be with the kids more, like have a foreman and whatever. So he's like well on his way to doing that already with all of the experience and stuff. And like I feel like if he had not had the experience of like helping me when he wanted to and like seeing me, give him the example of, hey, anything's possible. Right. And like you don't have to do things a certain way. You can think outside of the box. And the same thing happened with my teen girls, right? We moved here to the middle of nowhere. They come to me and they go, Mom, we want goats. I didn't want goats. I'm like, okay, how do you want to fund that? Right. And they're like, well, the one already knew how to crochet. The other one had to get a library book. Yeah, we still go to the library and get books and DVDs and whatever, and taught herself how, right? And I found them a place, to consign at, set up their Instagram. I run that for them and they do whatever. Fast forward, 5 months, they bring home 4 baby goats instead of 2, and it's snowballed since then. Like they just had a Mother's Day event at a flea market type thing. They had a booth and they pulled in $500 or $600 in one day. So like, that is incredibly fulfilling to me to be able to watch my kids. Like I don't tell them what I think they should be. Like I want them to figure out what makes them tick and why they came here and to follow that passion and purpose and to be able to thrive for themselves, right? And I just give them little bits of the tools like, oh, I can help you. Let me get that for you, whatever. But then it's them that actually does the work. And that is one of the most amazing things ever as a mom that I've been able to witness for sure.
I love that. And we've actually had a small taste of that because, of course, my oldest is only 6. But she did a similar thing because she's very gift driven. She loves material items, and not my love language, but it's hers. And so she's asking all the time, like, can I have this? Can I have this? And I'm like, we are not going to just buy you a toy every time you want one. That's ridiculous, so one of the things that I kind of started talking to her about was like, okay, if you want all this extra stuff, you're going to have to buy it. Right. So like, let's figure out how we can help you make some money. What are some things that you can make? And then I'll help you sell them. And so now what she does is she actually makes soap. So we got like a little soap making. It's one of those pour, like we melt the soap and then she just colors it and puts the essential oils into it. And then we pour it into the molds and then they, dry or whatever and cool. And then I just sell them on Facebook. So every time she like wants something and it's too far from like a holiday or something like that, I'm like, all right, let's make another batch of soap. I'll buy the ingredients, she'll, make them and then we sell them. I will say it is not the most profitable endeavor, but it's, it's fun and it's something she can do. She's only 6, so I know that this will evolve as she gets older, but it's just funny to watch like that entrepreneurial spirit also enter your kids, where I agree. It's like, we're also setting the stage and teaching them that going to college and doing all those things are not necessary to live the life that you want to live, and that we all have control over ourselves. And even at a really, in every way, right? So one of the lessons I'm trying to teach my 6-year-old right now is just because you have a feeling doesn't mean you have to act on that feeling, right? And so one of the ones that we're kind of going through now is like, when you're feeling something, you need to think about, like, is this helpful? If this feeling is helpful, then great, let's go with it. But if it's not helpful, then like, let's figure out a way that we can move past it, process it, move past it, and get to a place that's helpful again, and so it's just funny that like I've noticed, and I love what kind of Sarah mentioned way earlier in this thing, which was motherhood and entrepreneurship are the fastest way to personal growth. And I really do feel that way, because it's like when you have kids, you're faced with either I can put on them the generational crap that I got from my kids, or I can face this, deal with it myself, and help them so that they don't have to deal with this later on. And it has been the most challenging, but the most rewarding and healing thing, because one of the things that I think was really shocking for me as a mom was looking at them and realizing, wait, like, they don't deserve any of that. And so neither did I as a kid, and so they don't deserve that. So I need to change the way that I'm behaving. I need to change the way that I'm showing up in a certain way. And I think the same thing is also true with entrepreneurship, right? If you're not getting the success that you want, if your clients aren't getting the success, that's some inner work that needs to happen. Like, how am I not delivering properly, right? What kinds of things am I, as my ego, holding on to in this business that I need to let go of to let this business thrive? And so I do think like mompreneurship, or just entrepreneurship and motherhood, are almost identical in the way that they operate. But it's just a lot of growth, and I think that's the hard part, because a lot of people are hesitant. They don't want to let go of the ego. They don't want to, they want to stay in like that victim mentality instead of coming out of that and saying, I don't have to be there anymore. But
hearing this is so healing to that inner child in me. And, seeing you build this entrepreneurial thing with the kids, I'm sure there's so many different perspectives that you see. And like, I'm sure you're also healing your inner child while creating this incredible thing. So yeah, the other day I just went to the dollar store. I'm like, let me get back into some arts and crafts, but do it for like business. I want to make it fun. And that artist in me is, it's just doing simple things that we were good at growing up and things we did growing up, and putting it into the things that we're building. So this is amazing.
I love that. You have to check out, there's a Skool community, actually. It's called the Kids Craft Club. So if you haven't checked it out yet, you have to. I love it. I think it's so
We
fun.
know that one.
Yeah.
I was trying to get her on, but I can't remember. She said she had an appointment for the kids or something like that. I'm trying to help her. I really want to see that one. Winning the school games is like a product of doing the right things. She sent me for Mother's Day like a little book of like, here's a Mother's Day gift put together.
Yep.
It was a little bit not far enough ahead for me to like just get the printer and do it all right, but I have that and I'm still going to do it at some point. But it was cool to get that, and that's kind of got my gears turning, because I'm like a growth operator on Skool doing funnels and everything. I was like, how can we get this like super duper great? Because I'm in Edmonton. I'm just 3 hours north of them. They live in Calgary, and so that
really?
I'm hoping to get to go connect with them eventually. We'll do some Skool IRL events this summer. But that's so many amazing moms on Skool. I invited Evelyn to come on today. She's obviously super busy doing lots of other stuff, and everyone looks to her as like, oh, cool, because she's won the games, she's done all this stuff. But hearing her story on the last recording as well was super powerful to hear. She's saying all the same stuff you guys are saying about the ups and the downs, and I like Michelle, like you corrected me, like it not being like, what's the alternative, right? Like it's very similar to a lot of the same stuff that she's kind of been saying. So it just goes to show that it's not like this winning the school games is just a symptom of doing that right stuff, and it's not necessarily all personal development internal work. Like you could have a really shitty internal and still do the work. but it's about the doing, right? It's the doing and the taking the action and having that happen. So I love that what we're seeing across the board is kind of being from the bottom up, just being the same story. And so it's just a good positive sign that like you guys you're doing it. We're doing it. We're successful. We're like we're happening. We're on the right track, right? So it's just a good feeling to get to see that.
I love there's so many moms, by the way. Like, I think we see these women winning the games. So just so you guys know, like, I was actually blown away by the statistic. Half of all businesses in the United States is women, and half of those are moms. So that means 1/4 out of every single business in the United States is run by a mom. And so I think like people don't realize that's a huge presence. So that's just super cool in general. But a lot of the amazing women that have won the Skool games, a lot of them are like, I didn't know Tina Pegler was a mom, right? That woman made like $300K in a month. That's absolutely insane. And she had 2 kids while she was doing it. And then there's, Evelyn is absolutely amazing. There's a number of other like Daniel Bissonette's mom, right? The 2 of them do it together, which is just so cool. But there's so many like amazing moms out there just absolutely crushing it. And that's why, like, I don't know, I think it makes me laugh so hard when people are like, oh, you're like, how do you run a business while having kids? It's like, how do you not? Like, I don't know. The alternative sounds wacky to me. I don't know. It's a different spectrum.
I have a question, like spinning off that, because like that's one of the biggest questions we get, right? Like, how do you do it? How do you like juggle being a mom and running a business, right? So like, and I'm sure we all do it different ways. And so I'll share mine, and I'd love to hear from the rest of you.
Is the tactical like day to day, like how do you actually do it, and then also like there's the mental side of like how do you get through the day. I think there's 2 pieces to that question, right? Because some people are more analytical and like tangibly, like not hour by hour, minute by minute, but like what does your day, your week look like, and then also just your mindset shift and like recharging and all that sort of stuff. I just wanted to add that caveat.
Okay, I will try to remember the second part of it. So for me, because I'm neurospicy and all of my kids are neurospicy in some manner, and we homeschool, I don't run by a schedule. Like, I set alarms for things like this podcast that I had to like then say, Pat, like I had it for noon, not 11. But I set alarms, and I intentionally try to keep like my calls, like my one-on-one calls for high tickets and like group calls, on 2 specific days. As of right now, as I scale, it may have to go to 3 days, but 2 days, right? So I know that those 2 days, that's when I have calls, and the rest of the time I don't schedule. Like, I schedule as minimally as possible because there are so many moving pieces. Like, I'm running a business. I have 7 kids, 6 of which are still at home. We've got homestead animals and garden. Like, we do the whole shebang, right? And so, and there have been times, like Michelle, I think you said, where like I'm running a group call, and I don't just market to moms. Like, I help all school owners, right? Which is fine, but they're always, because I'm a mom and they're like 7 kids and their eyes bug out, right? Like, that's what happens. Although they always tend to forget. Like, I had them one at a time. I didn't have twins. So it's just like one at a time. Like, you just adjust and you keep moving. It's all good, I promise. But they are mostly understanding, right? So like, I intentionally leave my schedule as blank as possible and move with the flow, because shit happens. I mean, shit happens when you don't have kids, shit happens when you're not an entrepreneur, but that's just the best way that I found for us to move and flow, right? So I don't schedule. I set alarms. I try to be, this is the big one for me, and I'm continually working on this. I don't know if I'll ever be perfect 100% at it. Be fully present as much as possible. Yes, I work in the margins. Yes, there are times when I'm making lunch and I'm also answering school DMs or like notifications, like there are multitasking times. But like, if I'm with my kids, I'm not worrying about the shit I have to do when I have to work again, right? Or if I'm working to the best that it possible that I can. I'm not worried about what the kids are doing. There's always the caveat, right? Like, there's been times where I walk out and the kid's on a ladder. Like, how did you even get that? Why are you doing that up there? Like, I just don't even, right? But for the most part. And so that's where I'm like, I intentionally try to be fully present with what I'm doing when I'm doing it. Because when you start letting your mind shift to all the other things that you need to do or have to do or all this other stuff, it robs you of the joy of the present moment, right? When you're fully working on right now. And it can make things really, really messy. So I guess that kind of leads into the mindset thing too that Pat was talking about. But the other thing is that I have to be really intentional, and I was really bad at this for a long time because of that whole I live for my kids and my partner, and I do everything for them. I'm always like hyper aware, like worried, and trying to make sure everything works just right. Learning how to relax that and realizing that I don't have control over everything that happens. And when I choose to not operate in that way, it actually frees me up and it makes things so much easier, because even when you try to control all of the things that are happening and, you know, everywhere, whether you're a parent or not, it's not going to work. And the worry just robs you of what you could be doing right now. Right. But then I intentionally set aside time for myself, right? Whether that's an hour, you know, while the kids are watching a movie, you know, mine are older, so, and they're kind of feral, and I'm okay with that. Like they're outside making mud pies and climbing trees and doing dumb things, kid things, right? They're discovering about themselves and whatever. So like I don't I'm not a helicopter parent. But setting aside time for myself, whether it's to move my body, like turn up my music real loud and move my body and allow my voice to do what it wants to allow some of that like crazy energy to flow on out, or whether it's like watching some murder crime mystery, or maybe it's journaling, or maybe it's pulling some cards, or maybe like whatever it is that my inner being decides it needs, like it needs a break. That's what I do. Even, or I could go swing on the kids tire swing down the bottom of the hill, right? Like honoring, like Nav said, like that inner child, like painting, you know, doing things that I love, right? Like it's really intentional. I don't do it every day. I don't do it all the time. Typically I don't spend a whole day doing something like that for myself. Occasionally I do, and that's okay. But being very intentional to set aside time for myself actually, like we said, you know, fills up the cup so that we can pour. Like if you're pouring from an empty cup, it doesn't get much, right? Like, and it affects your children, and it affects your business, and it affects your marriage or your partnership. It's not worth it. So even though it seems like it may be selfish to set aside time for yourself, it's really important. And also, especially for the entrepreneurship bit, we hear, especially in the messy middle, like when you're building, about people facing burnout, right? Because they've pushed too hard. They've tried to like make or force something to happen, and they don't realize, like, they don't listen to that inner voice. Hey, this is a little too much. Like, my nervous system is overwhelmed. Or, hey, we need to take a break for a second. It's okay to take a break. It's okay, you know, to have a moment, because a lot of times when you choose to do that too, and you're not thinking about working, that's when the creativity flows and you actually get more done in less time when you come back to it, right? So like I always want to challenge, especially if you, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, or whether you're a mom or not, like if you're one, or even if you're either or, like make sure you take breaks and make sure you set aside time for yourself, because it's so key.
I just vibe with literally everything you just said, Sarah. That's like what I do for my business. I help mompreneurs to get their time back by managing their mindset like that and putting strategies in place and things like that. But going back to the original question about how do we do it? How do we make it work? And I know Michelle is going to say this probably, but it's a lifestyle. And I'll let her speak to that. I won't steal her speech that she's probably planning right now. But you're very intentional. You can't just live your life sporadically, frantically, with your head cut off like a chicken, you know, running around. Like you have to know, okay, these are some of the things for my business that I want to do. And then when you have business time, you have business time. And then when you're done with that time and your kids need you, or even during when your kids need you, then you have kid time. And that is how you make it work, because you can't be present with your kids if you are always trying to solve your business stuff in your mind. And if you're always thinking about your kids when you're working, then you won't be able to effectively get anything done. And you might even, like some of the moms I've worked with have started to resent their kids and interruptions from their kids. And so to get away from that, you need to really allow yourself to be where you are. And that's something that you can practice all over in your life, and you'll be happier. So yeah, mentality, presence. How do you do it? Presence. That's all I can say. Go for it, Michelle. Give us your talk.
I was gonna say, I just made a post about this recently, so I think that's why Mo's like lifestyle, because that's pretty much exactly what I said in my post. And I think like what you do, how you do one thing is how you're gonna do everything, right? And so I really like when I think of entrepreneurship, right? What are the values that are present when you're an entrepreneur? It's taking on challenges head on. It's, setting up SOPs, right? So that things are in a strategy, and things are something that's kind of plug and play. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you have to do a task, right? You want to think about like how you can run a business effectively and how can you apply that to your whole life so you're running your life effectively. And I'm a huge fan of integrating everything. So like we live a very alternative lifestyle, right? I mean, down from like entrepreneurship to how we take care of our health to how we educate our children. We are Christian and faith-based as well. So that plays a huge part in it too. And, for us, it's all like the lifestyle. It's how we do things in general. And there was actually, I did a podcast show recently, and I had Benny D on. So he's kind of Ted Carr's right-hand man. So if you guys are familiar with Benny, we had a great talk about it, which was kind of coming up with the values of your team, your company culture. And I think it was really good, where he was just kind of talking about like, you need to have shared values. The details of that may vary, right? But the shared values of like, you guys are people that take on challenges head on. You're conscious of your health. You're conscious of being the best version of yourself possible. You're conscious of X, Y, and Z, right? And I think it's the same thing in family. If the whole family, right, the same way as we build culture in our communities on Skool, we need to build that culture in our family, which is, this is how our family operates. We are a family who is health oriented. We are a family who likes to get outside when we can get outside. We're a family who takes, reading the Bible and prayer together, and, our spirituality, that's important to us. We're a family that, systemizes what needs to be systemized. So I will say, tactically, what does that look like? I have a morning routine and a nighttime routine, which without them, I would be lost. And like the morning routine is like setting people up for the day. So we clean out the litter box, right? We make sure everyone gets fed. We brush hair, brush teeth, change clothes. We clean up breakfast, make breakfast. We do their homeschooling. Like that's all done before 10 a.m. every single day, because that's our morning routine. And then I'm a huge fan of time blocking. So that's kind of how I separate. I do our morning routine, and then I do about a 2-hour chunk of work time. And the kids know this is me doing work time, so they don't really interrupt me. I do whatever I need to do to get them set up with something. And then I work, and then we take a break. I do some lunch, and then it's very variable. Like I don't plan everything out by the minute or the 10-minute or whatever. It's just, here's 2 hours that I need to finish whatever tasks I need to finish. And I just work on it. And then here's 2 hours where I'm with my kids and I can do whatever I need to do with my kids, whether it's play a game, do a puzzle, do some more schooling if they're having an extra day where they really want to learn about a whole bunch of stuff. Sometimes that happens, right? You kind of do that. And so you kind of figure out how to do it. And I will say, one of the big slogans I run by is like, you need to figure out how to be able to work, like run your business and manage it in like 2 hours a day. And that's what I do. Like, I don't technically have to work more than that. Now, client work is different. I don't count in client work with that. But I have about 2 hours a day where I'm actually actively on the computer getting stuff done, super productive, right? Throughout the day, I have Skool on my phone. If I get a message, I'll respond to it. I'll, engage in the community. I'll do fun stuff like that. But to me, like, that's not work. That's just me engaging in my community and getting to know everybody and stuff like that. So I do about 2 hours of actual hard work a day of like writing copy, getting things reviewed, doing important stuff that needs to happen. And the rest of it is all just part of our lifestyle, right? It's being with the kids and setting things up. And if I show up on a podcast, I do that. Like, we just really try to figure out, how can I get everything done in a day And that morning and night routine pretty much covers almost all of it. It covers personal hygiene, their education, the cleanliness of the house, and their education. All of that's covered in those two, the hour in the morning and the hour at night. So, and also getting your kids involved. My oldest is only 6, but she empties out the dishwasher for me every morning. So that's like, that gets me 15 minutes back, right? They clean up after themselves. That's a part of what we do. So like, I'm not constantly picking toys up off the floor. Like they do that when they're done playing. So I think that's a huge part of it too. And I don't think enough parents utilize their children. So they're like built-in workers, make them work.
I totally agree. I had before I got fired, the manager at the time, she wasn't my manager when I got fired, but before we were out for like a team lunch, and I was talking about like, just had my daughter, she was like 1 or just to turn 1 or like somewhere in there, and she was like, "Oh, you clean up after your kids? Let them do it themselves." I'm like, yeah, she can like barely walk over to the toy bin to pull the toys out, and I'm going to start teaching her to put them away herself, right? But as soon as we could, like she's almost 4 now, so as soon as we could, we had to go in and enact that, right? Put that in place to get them. And you don't have kids so they could do all the chores for you, but when you have kids, they make more chores, so you make them do the chores that they add to your plate. So they're like, "Oh, I gotta empty the whole dishwasher." It's like, yeah, but like, how many times have you turned on a laundry machine, or like paid the taxes, or like all this extra stuff
Right.
of being a parent that don't understand, right?
Yeah, my philosophy is, as a toddler, their job is to learn how to clean up after themselves. So like, they should not add to the mess. They should not add to everything. As a toddler, they're learning how to clean up after themselves. Once they've learned that, then we start adding on other chores. So like the 6-year-old just started at doing the dishwasher, right? That's a new thing. And then she knows, like, I tell her if there's a big knife in there or something like that, just don't touch it. I'll get that later, and she knows, like, she's not gonna touch it. I'll do that. But everything else she can put away perfectly fine. And some of it's in the cupboard. So like, she'll move the chair so she can climb up on the chair and climb up on the counters to put stuff away up there, and like, that's fine. Another thing that we did was we switched all of our stuff over to like plastic. So if she drops anything, it's not breaking. We learned that really early. We had like those, glass plates and everything, like the nice cutlery. And yeah, no, after a few broken things, I was like, I'm done with that. We're getting rid of those and we're bringing in plastic. So until all the kids are old enough to be able to manage that, we eat on plastic. So that's part of it too, is just, being like intention. I think intention's behind everything. It's being intentional about like, let's set up chores that make sense for their age. And every kid is different, right? My medically fragile child, who's 2 and has a lot of delays, she's not going to come even, it'll be a while before she's even cleaning up after herself, versus my 6-year-old, who by the time she was 2, she had an incredible speech. She was very advanced. She was cleaning up after herself. She was already helping me with her baby sister. And, if I told her to sit and stay and not move, she would not move until I told her she could get up now. So every child is different, and I think that that's also important for parents too, is like, your child better than anybody else. And so kind of setting like reasonable expectations of what's possible. Let them do what's possible, but if it's beyond their reach, it's okay to kind of let them, grow a little bit before they start taking that on.
And
I
it's
want to give
important too.
Shar a moment to, because she's been in and out. I know she's got clients today. She's been busy. I wanted to, if you had something, I know you've leaned in a few times, you wanted to say something, and then conversation continues and you're busy with clients going back and forth. So if you wanted to let us know now, Shar, how do you do it?
That's a great question. As you can see, I am totally in and out. I do work a 9-to-5 job right now. So, but I definitely wanted to be on this call because as moms, I think it is tough. I'm not going to lie to you. This is difficult. But then kind of what both Michelle and Sarah were talking about earlier, you kind of scale your questions on what do you want for your life and for your family. And at the end of the day, if I feel like if somebody else can do it, why can't I? But man, those are days that things just they just don't happen the way you want them to. I have planned out for the next day. I have like a journal where I write down, what do I want to do the next day? And there are days I don't even get to open it. And that is discouraging sometimes, but I also know at the end of the day, I have a goal and I want to make that happen. I think for me, after having kids, the biggest thing for me was my value for time changed. My time is way more valuable to me today, having two young kids. I have a 2-year-old and I have an 8-month-year-old. So they're very close in age too. I'm in the thick of it. I think my time is just so much more valuable to me. And I want to spend as much time with my family and being there for my daughters as I possibly can. So how am I going to do that? That's what I think to myself. And right now, time is like the least thing that I have. It really is. So I have started even like waking up a lot earlier, like 4 a.m. That is when the house is the quietest. That is when I can get the most stuff done. But man, when that baby doesn't sleep the night before, 4 a.m. is just a little difficult. So I think, yeah, just knowing what you want, surrounding yourself with people that also have that mindset. And I think mindset for me, I can say, was the most difficult things. Whenever I feel myself like maybe shifting, or maybe I'm straying away, or maybe I'm not focused, I just throw on a podcast. There's some awesome stuff on Spotify of podcasts of successful people and the things that they have gone through to get to where they are. So people look at successful people and they think that their life was just success, and it wasn't. It wasn't. A lot of these people came from nothing. A lot of these people came from even homelessness or poverty, or they defied odds. So it's kind of like, how bad do you want it? And can you defy those odds? Really?
I think
Thank
I'm super happy we got to catch you, because 9 to 5, that is just super crazy itself. And I totally what you said about the 4 a.m. thing. I asked my wife that. I was like, what do you like, baby? We're adjusting time for you. Like, what do you want a morning to look like, or whatever? She's like, I need 90 minutes in the morning, no baby, no nothing, silence in the house, coffee in my hand, me in the living room by myself. I was like, okay, 5-6 days a week I can give you that. Or like, I'm just kids are upstairs, I got them. If they wake up, you are downstairs. It's not perfect all the time, but like, I can give you that as as like a back and forth. The nugget I got out of that, and I this is something that is a theme that I've had recurring in my life when I'm hearing people's stories, like listening to those podcasts. Everybody starts somewhere different, right? Everybody's heart is different. Everybody, like, we just happen to have moms on here that have, medically, I forget how you guys said the word. You guys use some funny terms. There's whatever you guys said, right? There's some similarities there. And then we have the 9 to 5, right? And then we have Mo with her story where she was actually, struggling with it. And then Nav, who's got no kids. So Nav, you have no excuses, right? It's just the variety of stories, and the fact that like some, I think, I don't want to, like, numbers and metrics don't really matter, but we have some guests on here with like small communities, less than 10 members. We have some guests that have like 1,000 members. We've had guests on in the past with thousands of members before, right? But everybody is the same, and especially highlighted here, 9 to 5, homeschool. Like, it doesn't really matter. It's the same thing, that time is valuable, right? It's like, what is the alternative for you? Is like, well, if you don't wake up at 4 a.m., you don't get the things done. Sometimes, you have to be flexible because the baby's going to scream and cry. And I, as an involved father, I feel that, because I have to often wake up at 4 a.m. to get the bottle and do all that. I have to be there doing all that stuff. So I think Father's Day episode is going to be really great. Everyone's going to want to come back for that one and listen in. I'll share my stories that I've been trying to be respectful of your guys' time, or your guys' voices. But that's, I think, what I took away there is like, everyone starts somewhere different. Like, I didn't know you had the 9 to 5, right? So seeing you while you're there and talking about that and doing that and still making the time for what's important. I think Sarah had something she wanted to say about what you said, or I cut her off before you interrupted. Unless, Share, I know you're super busy. If there's anything else you wanted to add before you got to pop out again.
No, that's honestly, that's pretty much it. And I will say that, like, having a community, a network where I'm starting to meet other moms in this same space is just amazing. It is amazing. And that alone is motivation. I look at Sarah, I look at Michelle, and I look at Mo and Nav, even though you're not there yet, maybe you want kids one day. But the point is that we are all trying to do the same things. And I think having that support and just that network of people, it really does matter. It really does. That's all. I got.
underpinning theme for every school conversation ever. Community. 1 billion people to find their community.
It's
Let's
true
go.
though. I think it was Michelle talking about your family is your first support of community. Like your first idea of what it means to be in a community comes from your family. That is the closest link to being in a community setting. So yeah, this is the work that I've been doing on myself, figuring out what those blockages are. And I can definitely see how having, a child would really be healing in that way. Like to be able to see and give what I felt like was lacking in me. I don't know how else to put it, but something that I was neglected, not given, and being able to give that to another human being, I think in itself is so healing. So I love this community. I really do.
Well, here's a question. So Chani Twersky has future parents on Skool. She wasn't able to be here with us today, but she tagged me in this question. It's cool because she tagged Marianne as well, who is the crafting community we were talking about earlier. But Zach Gallagher asked, what made you feel ready to become a parent? Loaded question, I know, ... or is it? So I had my take of like inside personally, I always knew I wanted to be a dad. I just didn't know how soon. Like I always knew blonde-haired girl, blue eye, like, and that's just what we ended up lucking into the first time. Like, oh my god, amazing! Like for some reason, it's great, awesome, but you never feel ready. Is basically the advice that I have. Whether you're planning and preparing, or it happens as a happy surprise, not an accident, a happy surprise, right? Just the simple fact of like what Shar just said. Like if someone else can do it, I can do it. Humans have done this for thousands of years. They did it in caves with fire and like skin, like we didn't have clothes and roofs, and we're very fortunate in the day and time that we live in, that where we can choose to make those decisions. So you're never going to feel ready, but like being confident, if I could do it at 21 unprepared, like no savings, no, like nothing, I had no preparation at all, like you can do it too. So I guess that's the question I want to ask you guys from Zach would be, what made you feel ready to become a mom? Or in a similar fashion, like today, like what makes you feel confident in like what you're saying and conveying to anyone watching?
So what I want to say is it's kind of like a video game. Like you're going on in life and things are great, but then it's like there's something that you just feel ready to level up. And when you have kids, you are leveling up. And you will never go back to not having kids. You will never go back to who you were before you had kids. And so you don't need to be ready. When you level up in a video game, are you at the end? Sometimes you're at the end of the level, but sometimes you just reach that point where it's like, it's time. And so if you're wondering if you're ready, then you're probably ready to level up.
I agree with Mo. I think even in entrepreneurship, there's never the perfect time. But I think for me, having kids, like I met the guy that I could see that with, and my mind shifted. It was just like, wait a minute, why don't you have a baby yet? And I was like, I think I'm ready to have a baby. Like I didn't predict it. I knew that maybe one day I wanted kids. Actually, at one point in my life, I told myself I didn't want kids. And that's because I probably couldn't see it. I was in a different aspect of my life. So now even with entrepreneurship, it's like something just shifted in my brain. I was actually talking to Mo about this, like 2 or 3 days ago. And I was like, it's like, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the early 30s or something, but like something just clicked. And I was just like, I need to do something more. I need to share my knowledge. I need to help the world. I need to help other people that I can. So that's how I feel from my end.
I want to talk on that too, because for me, I agree. It wasn't until I got with my now husband. I think that that's probably a pretty common thing. I think once you kind of like meet the guy that you're like, oh, I'd actually want to build a family with this person, then it becomes, why are we not doing that? And for me, like, I'd always wanted to be a mom, but it never felt like, of course it's not the right moment. Of course, like, I'm in my 20s, like, I'm not going to have kids right now. We ended up having my oldest when I was 25. So we were, I mean, I guess still young in today's day and age, but not super young really. But it's like, and she was actually a happy surprise. And I had a miscarriage a couple years before that. That was also a happy surprise. Turns out I'm incredibly fertile. But that one was, I had the miscarriage, and that was, I think, what really, because I was so excited. And it was kind of like a later miscarriage as well. So it was around 14 weeks. And so I was so excited. We were literally like going into the ultrasound to find out if it was going to be a boy or girl type of deal. And that whole thing just like crushed me so much. I honestly don't even really remember the year afterwards, because it was just such a nasty place to be in. But after that, it was like my sole purpose in life was to become a mom. I was like, I literally dropped out of college. I was like, I'm not going to pursue a career. Like, I want to be a mom and I want to stay at home with them. Like, I'm not doing this. I dropped out of college. I was like, I was working a job, and I was like, our goal now is to have a baby. And once that happens, you're going to pay the bills because I'm going to be at home with that kid. And that's what happened. We had our baby, we ended up having her, and my husband literally jumped to a different company making twice as much, which was necessary for me to be able to be at home. So, like, shout out to my husband for being amazing. And we did that. And then very quickly I was like, I'm going to start figuring out, because part of it too is like, I have my 3 oldest ones are girls, and they are complete daddy's girls. And almost every single day I have to deal with them being upset that their dad has to go to work. Seriously, every single, and she's 6. She still cries about it almost every day. And so that's what we're working on right now, which is like, okay, I'm going to make enough money, and I'm going to get my husband to be able to quit his job, and then he's going to be home, and we're going to work this business together, and we're going to raise them that way so that he can be here with them. And so that's like the driving motivation. And by the way, we are slated to do that this fall. So like, I am so freaking excited. You have no idea. But yeah, it's like, I think that was kind of what really brought me into being able, like, did I feel ready? Absolutely not. But just the passion inside of me to have something that I could just love and cherish and hold, and all of that was just so beyond strong at that point.
This is something my wife and I did recently too, because like I got fired 2 years ago. I go to work, I come into the basement, or I'm fortunate that the one of the business partners I work with is 5 minutes away from me, so I go to work on Mondays. I get to physically go to the studio to film and do the thing we do. But that's part of the language we started shifting for our daughter, because she was like, it was, oh, mommy has to go to work, daddy has to go to work. It was like, no, we had that conversation. My wife does what, she's an esthetician. She does what she likes to do. She likes to get to leave the house, not be mom, practice her craft. Like, that's the thing she wants to do. And she doesn't want to do it from home. It doesn't work. She wants to physically go to that's her job. That's what she wants, right? That's great. That's fantastic. I want to do what we're doing right now, basically, right? Like, those 2 hours you have are basically 12 hours, 7 days a week for me, minus the times that I'm blocking off to spend time with the family, because I'm trying to do this 150% so that I can get it, so that I can support and do that, right? And so that's part of the language we started using, whether I'm in the basement or she's going to work or whatever. It's, no, mom gets to go to work today. Like, you get to hang out with me, mom gets to go to work. Dad gets to go do beekeeping or school. Like, I get to go to school. Like you get to go to school we have Tuesday, Thursday. She's got like a half day. We send her off to school. So Tuesday, Thursday, she gets to go to school. So we started saying, no, you don't have to go to school. You get to go to school. Like, it's something we choose to do, because realistically, we don't have to pay to send her. Like, she doesn't have to go. We don't have to socialize. We don't have to send her to do all that stuff, right? So she does get to go. It's a privilege, right? And so same thing for us for work. Like, I could just continue applying to jobs. I could go flip burgers at McDonald's. Like, there's a bunch of different things I could do to get past those 500 to 1,000 jobs I applied to. But the fact that I'm choosing to do that, I get to do this every day, right? So that's that little language piece. You struck that chord with me when you were saying that about them crying when he goes to work every day. I'm like, I wish.
No, I get that. Actually, that's a good idea. I should see if that helps. But I was gonna say it's a little
changes the
different because I think
mindset
my
around it,
husband
right?
might be offended because he hates his job, but
Well, for on his end is like he gets to go to work as though
yeah,
like he gets to leave the house for the day, right? Like I mean, I could have a conversation with your husband, tell him to like stay home 7 days a week for 2 years. He's gonna want to go to work and leave the
right.
house. Like eventually, it's gonna flip the other way. I could tell you that much.
No, it's so funny because she'll tell him though, because now she sees me making money at home, right? So she's like, why can't he work at home too? Like, call up his boss. I'm going to talk to his boss and tell him to let him work at home. Like, it's not quite how it works, but thank you.
So, well, we've been on for 90 minutes. I want to be respectful of your mompreneurship time to let you guys get back to it. Was there any final thoughts that you guys wanted to add, or Nav, any final question you had as a potential mother one day? Anything we wanted to wrap up on? Any thoughts that we weren't able to share with anybody today? This is something I'm doing like every week or every second week moving forward. So if you guys ever want to come back to talk about something going on, in your community specific event, like there's an open invitation. And for anybody watching too, it's a School Friends Live pod. Just send me a message and we'll find a time to get on together. But with that, was there anything you guys wanted to leave us with here before we wrap up?
This was amazing. Yeah, great conversation. And I think these are sort of the conversations that need to be had right now, especially around community building and getting that support. Because I know, in my own network, there's a lot of mothers, and I know how lonely it can be. I have some friends who are moms, and, just spending time with them, even in like spending 5 minutes and being present, being there is just goes such a long way. So it was just nice to be here with all of you. Yes, both scary and exciting.
Yes, it's a mix of that, and even like, so I didn't plan my kids. I didn't it seems to be a theme for my life. Like I just sort of jump, right? I just sort of jump and then figure out how things work after that. But you're never gonna, I personally, for me, like I don't know if I had stayed in that wondering if I was ready or when's the best time, like, and it's the same thing for entrepreneurship, like somebody else mentioned. Like it's real easy, your brain will get you stuck in that, like, well, what if, oh, I'm not ready, but what if it works? Right? What if it works? Like our brains are really good at forgetting that part. And when we can focus on that part and move forward, that's where the magic can happen. And like a lot of things, like whether it's entrepreneurship or motherhood or parentship, like it's not an either or, it's a both and, like, taking steps into the future, like towards your dream, life or whatever, or being a mom or a parent, doing the next thing when you don't really know if it's going to work or not. Like that's scary, but it's also exciting, and a whole range of emotions can happen, but it's so worth it rather than just staying, that's where a lot of people stay, is like, well, I don't know what's going to happen, so I'll just stay even if I'm miserable, like with my current situation and all of that. It's so much more worth it, even if it doesn't work out quite the way you think, to like dip your toes into the scary thing because you don't know what could come from it.
I'm reminded of that quote, the change occurs in the pain of staying the same, or the pain of change. I'm gonna butcher it because I don't remember it, because the person I remember saying the quote in my head butchered it when they said it, so I don't know how to say it properly, but you guys get what I'm saying. That's what I was reminded of.
When the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change.
There we go. That's the line. Now it's recorded. Now I can come back and remember. I'll be like, I'll grab this clip from Michelle. I'll put this on YouTube Shorts, and then just anytime I need to remember it, I got it now.
I have to head out, but it was so nice hanging out with you.
Nice.
And I'll see you all on Skool. Bye.
Thank you, guys. We'll say bye to everyone else too in the chat. Anyone watching, we'll see you guys on Skool. And see links for everyone's communities and everything is down below in the descriptions as well. I've got that posted. If you're interested in connecting with anyone who was on today, or learning more, or joining their communities, or checking out, or starting your own Skool community, all those links are in the description down below. Have to remember to say that when we're live, because I don't do any editing, so now it is in there. And yeah, thanks so much everyone for watching.